welcome to the channel, welcome to the video. Here we are today to break down the Xfinity Series race at Homestead Miami Speedway. This is for the Saturday race. If you don't know already, there are two Xfinity races this weekend at Homestead. This is for the Saturday, not the Sunday race. That lineup's not out, salaries aren't out for that, so you can't break it down. I'm not going to be able to get out a YouTube video for that race because I will be in New Jersey. I won't have a chance to film. That's why I'm filming 3 videos today. This is the third one. If you haven't already, you should check out my Truck Series video for Homestead and my Cup Series video for Homestead. I'm going to put them up in the top corner for everyone to hit. That's a link to hit them out. Because I'm not going to be able to get a video on, I will be posting all my top plays on Twitter. You should give me a follow at DFS Nate Lane on Twitter. I will put the link in the description. I'll also put my Instagram in the description. I'm very active on those, and you should give me a follow. I give out good information, tweet some stupid things I think are funny that probably no one else does during the race, but hey, it's okay. I'm always, if you want to ask me questions, I'll always answer them for you on Twitter and Instagram, always. That's not, not a lot of people follow me, so, I pretty much am active on there whenever anyone talks to me. So, if you haven't already, and if you've been watching these videos and you haven't hit the subscribe button, come on. Hit that subscribe, hit that like, turn on the notification bells, leave a comment, help me out, leave your feedback, negative or positive. I'm always willing to take feedback in the comments. So, let's get right into the video. Homestead Miami Speedway. If you've watched the Cup and Truck videos already, you know that it's not a very good high place differential track. 5.11 average place differential, not that high compared to a lot of tracks. The average most laps led here is 89.5, and the second most is 46, and the third most is 40.5. So if you're going to want to try to find 3 dominators for this race, in my opinion. I think especially because there's not a lot of PD upside at this track anyway, I think 3 dominators is going to be the key to winning this race. It's going to be hard to fit 3 in because, as you can see, all the dominators are like 9,400 up. So it's going to be hard to figure those out. But if you're playing cash, maybe 3 dominators is the way to go, and 2 is. 2 dominators should be able to do you the job. But I think if you want to win a tournament, you're going to have 3 in there. It's going to be hard to fit those guys in the lineup. We'll see. It depends how many guys lead laps. If someone ends up leading 150 and someone only leads 50, then yeah, you're not going to need them. So I'm not going to go, full. If you're doing 20 lineups or 150 maxes, any of that, I wouldn't go, all 3 dominator lineups. But 2 to 3 dominators, I think, is the way to go. On average, the most laps led has started in first place. The second most laps led started third, and the third most laps led started on average 5.5. So you're going to see that a lot of drivers that start at the top of this track are the most likely to lead a ton of laps. I'd say anywhere between like 1st, 7th, or 8th is probably the target area. Only 2 drivers have advanced 10 plus spots in the past 2 races. Well, that's averaged out, so 2 in each. I expect that trend to probably continue around that number. Maybe not because you got Alex Labby starting at 36, but we'll get there. All right, let's start out with Dale Earnhardt Jr., most expensive driver. Now look, I understand why Draftkings priced Dale Earnhardt Jr. the most expensive guy on Draftkings, $11,800. He's a former Cup driver. He was really good at Xfinity back in the day, but he has raced a limited Xfinity race schedule like he's doing this year, this one race, and he hasn't led laps. That's just not a thing he does. He'll finish high. I really think he's going to finish high, but if you're paying $11,800 for Dale Earnhardt Jr., you're going to need him to get up front and lead a bunch of laps. I just don't see that really happening, especially the speed that guys like Chase Briscoe, Justin Allgaier, Austin Syndrich, Noah Gragson, Harrison Burton, Brandon Jones, Ross Chastain, pretty much everyone below him in that high price range has shown this year. He does have a nice floor of 12, but if he just finishes 2nd place and doesn't lead any laps, he's not paying off that salary for you. You need him to get up front and lead the laps for Dale Earnhardt Jr. to pay off. I'm going to play some of him because I think it's dumb to just fade a guy who was very successful in the Cup and very successful in Xfinity in the past, but I don't think he's the best dominator option here. And I think a lot of people are going to play him because, look, it's Dale Earnhardt Jr. Shoot. You look at Dale Earnhardt Jr. and then you look at the next guy, Chase Briscoe. It's just such a bigger name. I think people are just going to play that because of his name. He does have 1 race in intermediate track in the past 2 years where he finished 5th, and 1 race at a steep track where he finished 5th. So that average out makes him the best average on the slate at these tracks. But it's on 1 race sample size. So there's that. I don't know why there's not an average running position for the intermediate tracks. That's weird. Okay. For the steep tracks, though, he had an average running position of 7.6 in his 1 race at a steep track. But and only 14 quality passes at both. Well, that's the same race. That's the same race, Nate. 14 quality passes. So, it's not like he's going to be great at driving through the field. So, if you need to get him to get to the front, and I see all these guys with more quality passes on average at these tracks, and the one that he raced, he only had 14. I don't like it that much. And you see in that one race, 0 laps led. So it's not like Dale Earnhardt Jr. is an odds-on favorite. Just go out there and straight up dominate this race. I mean, he could totally win. I mean, I'm not saying he's not, and I'm not saying it's not impossible, but I think there's just other guys I'd rather play to dominate the race than Dale Earnhardt Jr. I'm still going to play some of him, but I just don't think that's really in the cards for him. All right, up next at 11,300, we have Chase Briscoe. I do like Chase Briscoe a lot. I mean, I pretty much like him a lot every single race, except for that one track a few weeks ago where he wasn't too great at. I don't even remember which one that was. And he didn't do too well, so I had a good call on that one. Actually, he was doing well, and then he ended up messing up, so I got lucky. But there's luck involved in this thing, man. He has an average finish at 8 at Miami in the last 2 years. That ranks 3rd. An average finish at intermediate tracks at 10.38, which ranks 9th. And an average finish at steep tracks at 8.35, which ranks 6th. So all very good ranks for Chase Briscoe. The average running position at Miami is the 5th best. He has the 7th best running position at the intermediate tracks and the 7th best average running position at steep tracks. So all those numbers look really, really good for Chase Briscoe. 42.5 quality passes on average at Miami. That's really, really good. And then 29 to intermediates and 25 to steep tracks. So I don't see a problem for Chase Briscoe going through the field. Chase Briscoe has 14 laps led at Miami over the past 2 years. And 185 in the intermediates and 230 on the steep tracks. Very, very good numbers for Chase Briscoe to lead laps. I like where he starts. It's not as high as I want to, but Chase Briscoe's been so fast this year. He's been so good and led so many laps. Look at his average last 5 races, 85 laps led. He's been leading laps. I totally expect him to get up front and lead laps. He's a great play for me, I believe, this weekend. He's got a nice 4 of 8 place or PD upside. So I think Briscoe's a good play this week. I don't see any reason to fade him. I mean, I like him better than Dale Earnhardt Jr., if I'm being completely honest. I think he'd get up front lead laps, so he could win. He contends for a win every single race, so I don't see why that changes. Justin Allgaier at 10,900. He starts 11th. I think this is another great play. Allgaier, 10.5 average finish at Miami, ranks 7th, at 2nd best intermediate average finish, and the 3rd best steep average finish. 3rd best average running position at Miami, 2nd best average running position at intermediates, and the best average running position at steep tracks. Quality passes wise, for him to get up through the field, he has 44 quality passes at Miami, average of 27.6 at intermediates and 22.57 at steep tracks. The one thing, Allgaier hasn't led any laps at Miami though in the past 2 years, which scares me. The 782 at steep tracks is good, but you got to remember that steep tracks are Bristol too, and Bristol's like Allgaier's dominated that track for years. So the numbers look good. I think I like Briscoe more, and Allgaier starts 11th too, so his path to getting up front and leading laps doesn't look as great as some of these other guys. So I think he's a good play. I think there's definitely reasoning for him to dominate this race, to get up front and be a dominator, lead a bunch of laps, but I just think some of these other drivers have better paths to it. But I'm definitely by no means saying fade Allgaier. I'm going to play some Allgaier because he's just a great driver. He's had some bad luck this year, but that luck is going to turn into good for him soon. He is coming in leading 217 laps in the last 5 races. Most of those were at Bristol, which is a steep track. So he looks good. I mean, he's a good play. I don't think he's a great play, but I do think he is a good play for this slate. Then we get 10,500, Austin Syndrich. I do like Austin Syndrich a good bit here as well. I mean, you're going to hear him. I like all these dominators. I think all of them are very, very good. Syndrich starts 9th, though. Again, another guy I'm not so sure about his path to the leading laps, but if you watched the race at Atlanta last week, Austin Syndrich took off at the start of the race. His car kind of fell off, but he was leading so many laps. He was dominating that race. I didn't think anyone was going to be able to beat him. I cannot believe he did not win that race, but he didn't. Who won that race? Man, who won that race? I don't even remember. Oh well. He has second best average finish at Miami, the 5th best average finish at intermediates, and the 8th best average finish at steep tracks. He has the best average running position at Miami, the 4th best average running position at intermediates, and the 4th best average finish intermediates, or at steeps. 4th best at intermediates and steep tracks. A lot of good quality passes as well. He has the most laps led in the field at Miami over the last 2 years. That is a track that has been absolutely dominated by Tyler Reddick the last 2 years, and now Tyler Reddick's gone, so don't worry about him leading the laps. 177 laps led on intermediates and 111 on steep tracks. Syndrich looks really good here. He's been good at Miami. He's been the only guy who's been able to really lead a considerable amount of laps while Tyler Reddick was in that series. So that shows a lot to me. I think he can get up front there and lead laps. I think he's a good dominator choice. He's got good PD upside starting 9th. Coming into this race, he's got an average finish of 7.75, average run position of 5.85, and 107 laps led in the last 5. So he's been running really, really well this year, leading laps. He can totally get up there and be a dominator, one of the better drivers in the series. Probably a top 4 driver in the series, honestly. The way this year's going so far. Great car, Penske organization team. Everything looks good for Syndrich. Next we have Brandon Jones. Brandon Jones might be the one guy I'm not as high on as the other ones, but 10,100 starting 4th. He definitely has a good path to leading a bunch of laps here. Brandon Jones is so hit or miss. There'll be some race where he just looks absolutely great, and some race where I'm just like, this guy doesn't even seem like he's really that good. So, Brandon Jones is the 3rd best average finish at Miami, the 6th best average finish at intermediates, and the 7th best average finish at steep tracks. He is the 4th best average running position at Miami, 6th best at intermediates, and 6th best at steep tracks. So all those are really, really good numbers. 39.5 quality passes at Miami, 29 at intermediate, and 28 at steep tracks. He does have 0 laps led at Miami, but I don't think that's as big of a deal. But the 69 at the intermediates is scary to me. I don't like that, but he does have 168 at the steep tracks. So it's interesting. I just don't think Brandon Jones is just as good as some of these guys around him to lead the laps. I just don't. He's a good driver, don't get me wrong, but I just don't see the path to him really getting up front and leading a ton of laps. I don't think I'm going to fade him. We'll see when I'm making lineups, but if there was one of these dominators I would fade, I think it would be Brandon Jones. I just think that's the best way to go. He hasn't been running great this year. I mean, like, look at all these below 10, below 8, really, for the guys in his price range, and his average finish in the last 5. Never mind, that's driver score. But still, Brandon Jones is 11.8 average finish in the last 5 compared to a lot of those other guys. It's not so great. Only 24 laps led in the last 5 races. And again, according to apparently those other guys, not so great. So that's a problem for me. Now, Ross Chastain I like a lot. I like these next 3 a lot. I mean, for good reason. I mean, you saw where the most laps led on average start. And, sorry, I had to take out my hair. It was just really bothering me. So, I'm back now. I know it's no break for you, but Ross Chastain is where I left off, 9,800. Looks like a great play. Starts 3rd. He doesn't have a great average finish at Miami of 16, which ranks 8th, but I believe that's just from one race, so that's a one-race sample size. I'm not really going to take too much account into it. But at the intermediates, he's got an average finish of 11, which ranks 10th, and at steeps, an average finish of 12.61, which ranks 11th. His average running position at Miami has the 11th best, or at intermediates, it's 11th best, and at steep tracks, it's the 10th best. Those are all fine. But the thing I really like is he has 279 laps led at the intermediate tracks, and coming in the last 5 races, he has 73 laps led. We've seen Ross Chastain be able to start up front and lead a bunch of laps. We saw him do it at Charlotte. Colleague Racing's looked really, really good. Adrian Allmendinger dominated last week. That's who won. And we've seen Haley look really, really good, and Chastain look really, really good. And Chastain's led a lot of laps at tracks like this. I can see him being a good dominator here. And starting 3rd in a very good position to lead laps. He could get out front early. I don't expect him to get out front early, but there's definitely a point in the race where, yeah, I could see Ross Chastain leading a bunch of laps. I like Ross Chastain. He's a good dominator play. He's always someone that people don't want to play. I don't know why, but I'm going to continue to play him. Like, I remember at Charlotte, everyone was like, don't play Ross Chastain, play Brandon Jones, play Brandon Jones, play Brandon Jones. And Brandon Jones sucked, and Ross Chastain led a bunch of laps and was in the optimal lineup. So, I'm going to continue to play Ross Chastain this week. I think he looks fine. I mean, that's pretty much all I got to say about him. I think he's a good play. I don't think he's the best dominator option, but I think he's a good play. I think the best dominator option right here is Noah Gragson. I know the most laps led has been the guy from the pole. I know. But hear me out. On the pole, there's 2 guys who start side by side, right? So Noah Gragson, I mean, he's on the front row. That's good enough to me. He has only 1 race here, I believe, in the Xfinity, which is finished 4th, though. And at the intermediate tracks, he has the 4th best average finish, and at steep tracks, he has the 4th best average finish. He had the 2nd best average running position at Miami last year. He had the 3rd best average running position at intermediates, and the 3rd best running position at steep tracks. And let's not mention he has 54 quality passes at Miami, 32 at the intermediates, and 32 at the steep tracks. And I'm gonna be saying this all year. I believe that Noah Gragson is gonna be a star in NASCAR one day. I think he's going, out of all these drivers in the Xfinity Series right now, he will be the best one. Just needs to get a good ride in the Cup Series. He is very, very good driver, very, very young, very, very talented. Miami led 10 laps last year. Like, I mean, again, you had 3 drivers other than Tyler Reddick have led laps at Miami in the past 2 years. Chase Briscoe, Austin Syndrich, and Noah Gragson. And so you can get Noah Gragson at 9,600. Like, Draftkings is pricing drivers down now because of up because of where they start. So now you have Noah Gragson for way cheaper than he should be, in my opinion. He's got 118 laps led to steep tracks and 41 at the intermediate tracks. And coming into this race, the last 5 races, Noah Gragson's been on fire. An average finish of 5.2 and an average running position of 4.1, which is absolutely great. And he has 136 laps led in the last 5 races. That's second most to Allgaier, who led all of them in 1 lap, versus Noah Gragson, who has led laps in a bunch of different races in that time frame. I really like Noah Gragson. He is my favorite Dominator choice. I'm going to be sticking with that. He's going to be my favorite Dominator choice, I feel like, a lot this year. He already has been, and he's going to continue to be so. And if DraftKings continue to make him too cheap, that's fine by me. They can go ahead and do that. Noah Gragson, to 5x his salary, only needs to win and get 1 more lap led. But, I mean, if Noah Gragson, like, leads 40, 50 laps, he's going to smash that salary. It's too cheap. So then the other guy that I think everyone's going to play because he's on the poll is Harrison Burton, which is fine. I'm going to play Harrison Burton too. I think both of these two are very good Dominator choices. My problem with Harrison Burton is he's just not as good at the intermediates and the steeps as Gragson. I mean, and he's still good. 3rd best average finish at the intermediates, 5th best at steep tracks, but his average running has the 1st best average running position at intermediates and the 5th best at steep tracks. So they're very, very close to me, but when you get to the lap sled, there's a big difference. At the intermediate tracks, Harrison Burton has 0 laps led over the past 2 years and 81 to steep tracks. That's the difference to me. They both have about the same average finish, but I think Noah Gragson just has been a better lap leader overall than Harrison Burton has this year anyway. They both have both have 5-point average finishes in the last 5. Harrison Burton's average running position is a little bit down, but there was that race at Bristol where Harrison Burton started off absolute trash, and then no, not Bristol. Oh man, one of the other races, it was Charlotte. Harrison Burton started out like complete garbage and ended up finishing like top 5. So, his average running position isn't going to be as great, but that's fine. He has 81 laps led in the last 5 races, so laps led upside for Harrison Burton as well. These are my 2 favorite Dominators. I think they're going to be a lot of people's favorite Dominators. I would still slightly take Gragson, but I very much like Harrison Burton too. If I'm going to rank the Dominators, I would go Gragson 1, Burton 2, Briscoe 3. I think Chastain 4. Chastain and Syndrich are like tied for me. Then Allgaier, then Jr., then Brandon Jones. So I'm going to have a lot of Burton and Gragson. I think that's a good pair to have too. I think both of them could lead a ton of laps. I honestly wouldn't even be surprised if both of them lead like 100. So they look good to me. Both really good drivers, both in great equipment. Noah Gragson for Junior Motorsports, Harrison Burton for Joe Gibbs Racing. They're the 2 best Xfinity teams. Both are probably going to be in the Cup Series one day, driving for those teams. Well, I guess Noah Gragson, maybe Hendrick, or Stewart Haas Racing. Probably, I guess Hendrick. But yeah, those are both 2 really good drivers and really good cars, so I really, really like. All right, now it's time to get into more of the PD plays. We got Jeremy Clements priced at $9,100, starting 23rd. Yeah, it's unfortunate here. I mean, you know, you see someone starting 23rd, and Jeremy Clements isn't a bad driver, but I just don't know if I'd really want to play him at $9,100 on DraftKings. As an average finish of 17.5 at Miami, which isn't good, but it does rank 10th. He has an average finish of 15.93 to intermediates, which ranks 16th, and an average finish at 15.06 at steep tracks, which ranks 15th. So he's been solid at the intermediates, but it's just nothing like special about it. And like coming into this race, in his last 5 races, he's an average finish of 16.25 and an average running position of 17.24. And to pay off his salary, he needs a top 10. So if he hasn't had like top 10s at the intermediates at Miami, at the steep tracks, or in the last 5 races, what makes you think that's going to happen today? That's just my opinion. I'm not going to be playing Jeremy Clements today. Could he do it? Yeah, I guess. I mean, he's always got top 10 upside. He's not a bad driver, but I just don't think the probability of that happening is very, very high. And it's the same thing with Alex Labbe. He starts 36th. DraftKings price went to $8,900. I don't mind his price up because if he was at like 8K, everyone would play him. And I probably still am not going to play him right now, but he has an average finish at Miami in the last year of 19.5, which ranks 13th. At the intermediates, 18.59, which ranks 18th. The 20th best at steep tracks. He has the 12th best average running position at Miami, 19th best at intermediates, and 20th best at steep tracks. But the quality passes have been bad, and that's what we need for Alex Labbe to move up the field. He has only 5.5 quality passes at Miami, 3.61 at the intermediates, and 2.149 at the steep tracks. So that's the stat that you look at to see if someone can move up through the field and get to where they need to go. And he has not shown the ability to do that. In his last 5 races, he has an average finish of 20.5, an average running position of 20.3, and 6.75 quality passes. So, I mean, it's not bad, but for Alex Labbe to pay off to just 5x his salary, just to 5x, he needs a top 17. And, I mean, I think that's in the realm of possibility. Those numbers aren't far off from top 17, but if you're paying $8,900 when I can just pay a little more for Harrison Burton, who has lap-led upside, I'd rather just do that. Even just go down to Michael Annett, who I think has a higher ceiling. I just don't think Labbe has a very high ceiling here. I mean, I think he could 5x, and that's about it. I don't see him getting up to top 14 and 6xing that salary. Up next, we got Michael Annett, 8,700, starting 17th. Michael Annett has the 5th best average finish at Miami, the 12th best average finish at intermediates, and the 10th best average finish at steep tracks. He has the 7th best average running position at Miami, the 9th best average running position at intermediates, and the 11th best average finish at steep tracks. I think Michael Annett's fine. He has 51 quality passes at Miami. That's very good. That shows me that he can get up through the field. 26.25 at the intermediate tracks and 22.684 at the steep tracks. And coming into this race, in the last 5 races, Michael Annett has an average finish of 15th and an average running position of 12.15. So all those are solid. The only problem for Michael Annett is he has to get top 8 to pay off that salary. And that's just, it seems thin. It's going to be hard for him to get up there. And, like, do I really just want a 5x when I'm paying for Michael Annett? Like, I want to be higher. I want to be more of a 6x, and that's a top 5. And it just seems so thin for that to happen. I mean, could it happen? Yeah, Michael Annett's a decent driver. But it just doesn't feel like that's really, really a high up possibility for him. Next, we got Josh Williams at 8,600, starting 18th. His 12th best average finish at Miami, 20th best at intermediates, and 19th best at steep tracks. He has the 8th best average running position at Miami, 20th best at intermediates, and the 18th best at steep tracks. Quality passes has been good at Miami, but the intermediates and the steep tracks not good. 21 at Miami, though, is very good. I do like that. That does show me that he could get up through the field here. But, in the last 5 races, Josh Williams has an average finish of 16.6, and an average running position of 18.8. But the problem with Josh Williams is, he needs a top 9 to pay off the salary. Again, it's just like Michael Annett. And I have more faith in Michael Annett getting a top 8 than Josh Williams getting a top 9. Like, Josh Williams just isn't a top 10 driver in that series. So to really think he can get up front to lead laps is tough. Okay, up next is this one's interesting for me. Myatt Snider at 8,400. Now, if you look at all the stats for Myatt Snider, they're gonna look very good for this year, especially because he hasn't really raced that much in Xfinity before this year. So let's look at this in his last 5 races: an average finish of 14.66 and an average running of 10.82. But Myatt Snider's running for two different teams this year. He sort of alternates, running for the RSS racing team, which is what Ryan Sieg races for, and then he RCR in the number 21, which is driven by Anthony Alfredo this week. Now, the 93 car RSS Racing is nowhere near as good as that 21 for Anthony Alfredo. And if you watch last race, Myatt Snider did not finish well. He was able to, I think, barely pay off his salary, but it wasn't by a lot. And I just don't know if I really trust it as much as I would if he was driving a 21 car to pay off that salary. Myatt Snider needs a top 14 to pay off that salary. And do I think Myatt Snider could? Yeah, I think he could. I think he's more talented than the car he's in. I think that's a possibility, and I'm going to play some, but I don't know. That 93 car's not been running well. Like, ever since pre-Corona NASCAR Xfinity Series, the 93 car was running really well. Jeff Green was driving it well. Snyder was driving it well. But ever since they came back from Corona, it has been a complete shift. The 93 has been trash. I think Snyder drove it to like 23rd or something last week, something like that, maybe 20th, 18th. It was a decent run, but it's not what we need from him at 8,600. If he was still down the 7K range, and that's a different story, but at 8,600, you need a top 14, and I don't think that's like a lock to do anymore. If he was in a 21 car, I think that would, but he's not. Which we still haven't talked about a 21 car, which is wild how underpriced it is. We'll get there. Tommy Joe Martin's 8,100, starts 34th. He has the 17th best average finish at Miami, the 25th best at intermediates, the 30th best at steep tracks, the 17th best average running position at Miami, the 24th best at intermediates, and the 26th best at steep tracks. So, I mean, he's been okay, but to pay off this salary for Tommy Joe Martins, we're going to need him to place in the top 23. And not a lot of those stats were top 23 driver. So I don't think that this is like the best play in the world. I think Draftkings priced him correctly for where he starts at. It's going to be a tough one to play. I mean, you're going to need some PD guys, but like I think I'd rather play Snyder, and I would 100% rather play Anthony Alfredo, who's like just cheaper than him. So, for who knows why, but that's fine. Um, but yeah, I think Martins is okay. I don't think he's great. His average finish in the last 5 is 24.75, and average running position is 23.78. So like, yeah, I can see Tommy Joe Martins paying off the salary, but I can't see him really exceeding the expectations and smashing that salary. So I mean, if you're playing cash, and he might be fine. I still think I'd rather play Alfredo in cash, but I don't hate him. He's an okay play. I mean, I might have a little bit of him, but I might just go heavier on Anthony Alfredo instead of just playing Tommy Joe Martins. Speaking of Anthony Alfredo, 7,900, starts 21st in the 21 car. He has the 8th best average finish at intermediate tracks and the 13th best at steep tracks. He has the 15th best average running position at intermediates and the 15th best at steep tracks. But in all honesty, that's not the stuff I'm really... Oh, he's done well quality pass-wise at both intermediates and steeps too, by the way. But what I'm really interested in Anthony Alfredo is how he's been running this year. He's now in that 21 car with RCR, which has been a very, very good car, and that is the car that Tyler Reddick used to drive in the Xfinity Series and that dominated at Miami. So that team knows how to set up a car for my Homestead Miami Speedway, clearly. He has an average finish of 12 in the last 10, or last 5, and an average running position of 16.95 in the last 5. That's going to be a little skewed because he was in the back for a lot of the race at Atlanta, but he ended up driving his way back up towards the end of the race, and it paid off his salary. So that was great. To pay off his salary, he does need a top 12, which is what he's been averaging on the year, and Anthony Alfredo has upside to be a top 5 driver. Top 6 will 7x his salary. He finished 6th at Auto Club this year, so that is definitely in the realm of possibility for him. He's a top 6 car, honestly. I would not be surprised by the end of the year if there's one race where Anthony Alfredo is like competing for the win by the end of it. So just that car's so good, and he's definitely a talented driver. I mean, he's not like these guys up here, but he's a rookie. I mean, his talent will eventually rise and he'll be competing in the series very well as well. But I do like Anthony Alfredo. I think it's a great cash play. I think he's the best, if you want to say a lock, but I don't think there's really a lock at all, ever. I don't ever want to say that, but if there's anything close to a lock, I think it's Anthony Alfredo. He is every week, man. He's always underpriced. I missed when he was 6K. He was so chalky, like 60% owned. Brett Moffitt, 7,700, starts 13th. Yeah, this one I'm not so high on. He has the 13th best average finish at intermediates and 12th best at steep tracks, which is good. 10th best average finish at intermediates and 13th best at steep tracks, which, I mean, yeah, it's fine. It's just he starts 13th, and to pay off the salary, he needs to get a top 9, and he hasn't done that all year. Well, he might have done it at Charlotte. I think he finished 9th at Charlotte. It's definitely possible, but like for Brett Moffitt to get up there and be a top 9, I feel like it's reaching, and like that's just, again, it's just 5xing his salary. You really want him to 6x and get a top 6. And I don't think that's very, very like exciting. Riley Herbst every week is cheaper than he probably should be, but he always ends up wrecking out. But before Riley Herbst wrecks out, he runs really, really well. So I always take a few stabs at Riley Herbst because he's always like a top 7, 8 car. This week he starts 6th. He's run well at intermediates, 10th best average finish, and the 16th best at steep tracks. He's got the 5th best average running position at intermediates and the 8th best at steep tracks. So you know he's running well. It's just sometimes stuff at the end of the race does not go well for him. And eventually that's going to change. So I'm not saying like lock in Riley Herbst, but if you're playing a bunch of lineups, a few Riley Herbst lineups is probably smart. 25.5 quality passes at intermediates and 25.6 at steep tracks is very good. In the last 5 races, Riley Herbst has an average finish of 16.8, but see, the average running position is 10.54. His running position is always higher than his average finish because stuff screws him up, and I mean, it's just youth in the Xfinity Series. He's a rookie. His stuff happens. Riley Herbst does need to have a top 6 to pay off that salary, but I mean, Riley Herbst does have top 3 potential. I believe he finished 2nd or 3rd at Auto Club this year, so he does have that potential to get up there and 6x that salary. He's in a fast car for Joe Gibbs Racing. And he's just cheap, you know. I don't hate playing him. Up next, we got Joe Graf, 7,400, starting 32nd. This is another one, really high PD upside guy that Draftkings priced up, but they might not have priced him up enough. Let's look at Joe Graf. He has a 24th best average finish at intermediate tracks. Isn't great, but he does have the 18th best at the steep tracks. He has only the 22nd average running position at intermediates and the 23rd at steep tracks. He doesn't have a lot of quality passes, which is scary, but quality passes don't get recorded until I believe you're in the top 15, so that's not really what we need Joe Graf Jr. to do today, or this weekend, tomorrow. He has an average finish in the last 5 races of 21.6 and average running position of 24.6. To pay off Joe Graf Jr.'s salary, he needs a top 19. So it's definitely in a realm of possibility. It's nothing that, like, I don't think Joe Graf has a ton of upside because the 6X or 7X, top 16, top 13, I don't really think that's in the cards. But top 19 definitely is. It's not like something I'm like, oh, that's a lock, he's going to get a top 19. No, because Draftkings does price up these guys. Like, there's no one right now that I'm like, oh, that's a lock for him to really pay off that salary. But Joe Graf Jr. has very good potential to pay off that salary. I do believe that. I'm going to be playing some Joe Graf. I don't think he's the best play, but he is a good play. Ryan Sieg starting 7. Man, Ryan Sieg has had a bunch of bad luck. He has not had a good year, man. RSS Racing has looked trash since Corona came back. I feel bad for him, but they just have not looked good. He does start 7th here. 9th best average finish at Miami. 14th best at intermediates. 14th best at steep tracks. 11th best running position at Miami. 13th best at intermediates. And 14th best at steep tracks. He only has 1 quality pass Miami, which I don't like, but at intermediates he has 20 and 14 at steep tracks, which is solid. But coming into this race, he has an average finish of 15.5 and an average run position of 14.425 in the last 5 races. To pay off his salary, he needs to finish top 7, so where he started. I have more faith in Riley Herbst finishing where he started than Ryan Sieg. So I don't think I'm going to play Ryan Sieg. I haven't played Ryan Sieg since Corona. Well, I mean, he's always starting up front. He's just not he's a good driver, but he's not a guy that's going to ride around up front the whole race. Up next, we have Stephen Parsons at 7,000, starting 27th. This guy who's run very limited schedule in the Xfinity Series. Car isn't like anything special. He has an average finish of 21.33, which ranks 21st at intermediates and a 23rd best average position at steep tracks, 21st best average running position at intermediates, and 19th best at steep tracks. He has only 2.33 quality passes at intermediates and 3.5 at steep tracks. So that does scare me a little bit. I don't know how confident I am in Stephen Parsons driving up through the field here and really having that high of a ceiling. And he hasn't run a race yet this year in the Xfinity Series. But to pay off his salary, Stephen Parsons needs a top 22, and I believe he can get a top 22 in at least 5X. And to 6X, he only needs a top 19. I honestly think he could do that too. I don't think that's completely like out of the realm of possibility. And no one knows who this guy is, so like he's not going to be a guy who I think is highly owned. I just don't think that people are going to be like, oh, Stephen Parsons, like they've been playing Xfinity all year and they see some guy they haven't known. And it's not like he's starting 35th, he starts 27th. But I think he could end up being a guy that ends up being in the winning lineup, who's going to be very low owned. So I don't hate him. I'll probably play a few shares of Stephen Parsons. Not my favorite play in the slate, but I have more faith in. I mean, like I look at Joe Graf Jr. and Stephen Parsons, and if I'm being completely honest, I feel like there's about the same probability that those two pay off their salaries, and I feel like Parsons is going to be severely lower owned than Joe Graf Jr. will. Next, we have Jeffrey Earnhardt. I say this for Jeffrey Earnhardt every week. I don't really look at his past stats at the tracks because he's in a much worse ride now. Let's just look at his average position this year. He's got an average finish of 21 last 5 and 23.7 average running position, and he needs a top 12 to pay off his salary. Do you have really faith in that happening when that's how he's been running this year? Not really. Bailey Curry, not playing Bailey Curry. I mean, he's just been trash this year. Just not good, not finishing good. 22.5 average finish, 25.7 average running position, and he needs a top 17 to pay off his salary. So, are we all of a sudden saying Bailey Curry is going to finish 5 more spots higher than he has on average this week? Like, no. And then now let's get to Justin Haley. Justin Haley's like the Eric Jones of the Xfinity Series. I think DraftKings just hates him. They don't want to price him up well. They don't want to price him what he's supposed to be. He's at $6,700. I mean, Justin Haley is cheaper than a guy who hasn't raced yet this year and a guy who doesn't finish higher than 22nd. Are you kidding me? That's ridiculous. He has 7th best average finish at intermediates and the 9th best average finish at steep tracks. He has the 8th best average running position at intermediates and the 12th best average running position at steep tracks. So he's been very, very good at these type of tracks. And he has 39 quality passes at Homestead, 32.6 at intermediates, and 26.34 at steep tracks. Very, very good. Last 5 races, average finish of 12.8, but he should have had a higher one because of Bristol. Look at that average running position of 7.4. He's been running very, very well, and to pay off his salary, Justin Haley needs a top 10. He needs to run around where he's been running, 1, all year, and 2, where he starts. Shouldn't be a problem for him. He can even if he gets a top 7, he's 6x his salary. So there's nothing wrong there. I love Justin Haley today. It's just like Eric Jones. It's the same play. Like you don't. He's way too cheap. Yeah, he's not going to move up a ton of spots, but if he just moves up a few, he's going to kill that salary. So Justin Haley, I really like. I'm going to be playing a good bit of him. He's 100% my favorite 6K guy. So, yeah. Brandon Brown has been a guy I've been playing a lot of, but I don't like him starting 5th. I don't really look at his stats too much because he's been running much better this year than he has in his past. But he does have an average finish of 10.4 in the last 5 and an average run position of 13.84, which is very good. Like, it's good, especially for Brandon Brown and that team he's in. But he needs a top 8 to pay off that salary, and I just don't know. I don't feel like that's like a guaranteed thing for Brandon Brown. When I can just play Justin Haley for like 100 more, I'd rather do that. You got Matt Mills at 6,400. This is another guy I don't really look at his stats too much because I just look at this year and how bad he's been. 29.75 average finish in the last 5 races and a 27.65 average running position in the last 5 races is not good, and he needs a top 23 to pay off that salary. So once again, do we think that all of a sudden he's going to jump up 6 spots from what he's been averaging on the year or in the last 5 at Homestead Miami Speedway? No, I don't think that's going to happen. So I'm not excited to play him. Colin Garrett's only raced 1 race this year. He had something mechanical went wrong, finished 37th. But Colin Garrett in the past races in his career has not been bad. As you can see, he did race Homestead Miami Speedway last year and finished 21st and had an average run position of 21.2. So he hasn't been trash. The last race wasn't good for him. It's just he gets expensive. Like the last race he was like, I think in the 4Ks. Now you have Colin Garrett. He needs a top 24 to pay off his salary, which it can happen, but like I don't think it's like a great play by any means. I'm going to play some Colin Garrett because I think he does have upside, especially a top 21, which is what he finished last year, will 6x his salary, but I just don't think the upside's really, really there, and I think it's very limited on that upside. Jesse Little starts too high at 16th. He hasn't been running, has average finish of 23.6 this year. He's just not the guy you're looking for. He's a top 15. I don't think Jesse Little will finish top 15. Colby Howard, 5,800, starts 31st. This is a guy I missed in the last 2 weeks. I'm not going to lie. I did not expect Colby Howard to do very well again this week. And now I'm going to probably play him this week, and he's probably going to suck now. But Colby Howard has a 26th best average finish at intermediates and 24th best at steep tracks. Nothing too special, but like this season he's been running well. These stats are from the last 5 races, but in the last 2 races Colby Howard's finished top 20 in both. And I very, very much like that, especially when I only need a top 23 out of Colby Howard. I think that's very reasonable for him, and I think he can even get to 6x in top 20, and I think he can even get to top 17 and 7x. I think it's possible. I think the reason I'm always about playing the ceiling guys versus the floor guys, and I think Colby Howard's a ceiling guy, and he has a floor too. So like I think he could very, very well hit that ceiling and win someone a tournament this week. Up next we have Timmy Hill at starting 28th at 5,600. He has an average finish in the last 5 of 25.2, an average running position of 23.72, and to pay off that salary, he needs a top 22. It could happen. I just don't think the ceiling's there. Like, I'd rather just play Colby Howard, who I think has a way higher ceiling than Timmy Hill at that salary. Up next, Cody Vanderwall, who wrecks every single race. I don't suggest playing him. Average finish of 30.8 and 32.74. So, yeah, that's not the way to go. He needs a top 23 to pay off that salary. So, 10 spot difference than his average. So, yeah, that's probably not the way to go with this one. BJ Mccloud's interesting, I think. He's 5,200 starting 22nd. Remember a few weeks ago when BJ Mccloud was getting like top 15s every week, like out of nowhere, all of a sudden was just running really good. And then I decided, I was like, I guess I got to get on BJ Mccloud train because, I mean, maybe he's turned a corner and then he was normal BJ Mccloud last week. So that one's interesting. But even at like Miami and intermediates over his career, he hasn't been bad. Like he has the 14th best average finish at intermediate tracks, 22nd best at, or that was at Miami, 22nd best at intermediates, and the 22nd best at steep tracks. He's got the 19th best average running position at Miami, the 23rd best average running position at intermediates, and 25th at steep tracks isn't that great. He's been finishing higher and he's been running, so that's a little bit scary, but I still think there's a little bit of upside maybe. Last 5 races, average finish is 17.75 and an average running position of 21.2 is pretty good for BJ Mccloud. And for BJ Mccloud to pay off his salary, I believe it's a top 20. Yeah. So it's a top 20 to pay off his salary. I think he can do it. I don't think he's... Oh, man, it's so hard. Because last week, those 2 weeks... Not last week he sucked, but the 2 weeks before that he'd been running really, really good. And, like, top 17s were, like, what he was getting. So he could 6x there. So BJ Mccloud could end up being the guy you need to play. So I'm going to play some, but I'm not suggesting, like, he's some great play. He doesn't have a high floor, but he does have a ceiling that's fairly like interesting. JJ Yeley starts 14th and like averages like 30th. So don't play that. Stephen Light's a starting park. Don't play that. Kyle Weatherman starts 29th. He hasn't run a race yet this year, but even when he has in the past, he has not run well. As you can see, 32nd, 34th, 35th, 33rd. So I don't like Kyle Weatherman. Cesar Baccarella, I hope I said that name right. I don't think I have any data for him at these tracks, and he hasn't run a race this year. He's not like in a very good car or anything. He starts 24th and needs top 22 to pay off his salary. That's just probably won't happen. Same with Vinnie Miller and Fincham, needing top 20s to pay off their salaries for guys that average 24 and 25. So those guys just don't really seem all that great for me. I'm gonna go over my top dominators again. I'm gonna go with my top dominators. I'm gonna say Noah Gragson number 1. I'm gonna say Burton 2. I'm gonna go say Chastain 3, Allgaier 4. Oh, I missed Briscoe. Let me restart. Gragson 1, Burton 2, Briscoe 3, Chastain 4, Allgaier 5, Syndrich 6. Syndrich 5, Allgaier 6, Earnhardt 7, Jones 8. And then for PD guys, my top PD guys, I'd have to say got to be Anthony Alfredo at number 1. I've got to say I think Michael Annett's probably my next favorite. There's not a lot of great PD guys, and then Tommy Joe Martins and Stephen Parsons. Those are the guys I like for that. Oh, and Joe Graf Jr. And then I just think there's some other like solid value guys that could hit who have a high ceiling but a very low floor, like Riley Herbst and Brett Moffitt. Riley Herbst and Justin Haley. And if you really want to go get some really cheap value, which I don't say is a bad thing, Colby Howard looks good. I think Colin Garrett's okay. I think BJ Mccloud's fine. But that's it for me. I want to go lower to Mccloud. Don't play Stephen Light. Trust me on that one. Star and Park guy will not finish the race. So that's pretty much all I got for this race. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys have a really good weekend. This last video I'm recording. I hope you guys make some money. I hope I make some money. Hopefully have a very successful weekend playing Draftkings. If you liked the video, hit that like, hit that subscribe, leave a comment, turn on the notification bell. That stuff really, really helps me out. Give me a follow on Twitter and Instagram if you want to ask questions or if you just want to see what I'm posting about. I'm always posting about sports on Twitter, always. Basketball, football, NASCAR. Those are really like my main 3, but when baseball starts up again, I'll be talking about that more too. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend.